In the face of the Indian Air Force's rapid expansion, can Pakistan really rely on China's J-35s to turn the tide when India has constructed a steel barrier in the South Asian sky with 62 Rafale fighters and the soon-to-be locally produced Su-57? The Pakistani Air Force is still relying on 36 third-generation, half J-10CEs to support itself. Against this backdrop of disparity in power, the Pakistani side has announced a plan to procure 40 J-35A fighters, which is actually a breakthrough. Is the plan to procure 40 J-35A fighters a good move, or is it just a castle in the air? As the only country in the world that may provide Pakistan with a fifth-generation aircraft, China's foreign trade version of the J-35A does show unique advantages. This twin-engine stealth fighter not only inherits the advanced design concept of J-20, its aerodynamic layout and radar reflective area optimization are obviously better than the single-engine design of F-35, but also crushes Russia's controversial Su-57 in supersonic maneuverability. What is worth paying attention to is that the KLJ-7A active phased array radar of the J-35A can detect up to 200 kilometers, which can form a good strategy for the J-35A when combined with PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles. Air-to-air missile formation of the first enemy to find, first enemy to destroy ability, enough to form a generation gap in the air war against the Indian Rafale suppression. However, there are hidden worries behind this technical advantage. Pakistan Air Force has long relied on the US-made F-16 multi-purpose combat system. While the J-35 is a focus on air control, air sword, the ability to attack on the ground still need to be realized through the external weapons or subsequent improvements, which with the Pakistani side of the expectations of the one machine multi-purpose, needs to have a gap. The biggest obstacle to the military purchase program is not the technical adaptation, but Pakistan's strained financial situation. The country's annual military spending is only $7.64 billion, excluding the cost of maintaining the 500,000-strong army and existing Air Force equipment. The tens of billions of dollars needed to purchase 40 J-35As is a fantasy. This predicament has given rise to a unique resources for equipment model. Strategic assets such as the operating rights of the Guadalupe port, the share of proceeds from the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and the mining rights of the Lehigh copper mine may all become collateral. This deep binding can ease the short-term financial pressure, but also let the China-Pakistan relationship is facing a delicate test when Islamabad with the national lifeblood of the industry in exchange for military equipment. How to maintain a balance between the transfer of sovereignty and national security will become the core issue of the next decade. For its part, India's response underscores the spiraling arms race in the region. In the additional 26 Rafale carrier aircraft at the same time, New Delhi is accelerating the 114 multi-purpose fighter aircraft procurement program, and with Russia to reach Su-57 technology transfer agreement, this air and sea integration of war power to enhance the direct compression of Pakistan's strategic space. What is more alarming is that the Indian Navy's Virat aircraft carrier has been commissioned ahead of schedule, and with the military deployment in the Andaman Islands, it has formed a pincer-shaped deterrent to Pakistan's sea lanes. In the face of such pressure, Islamabad will be 6 generations of aircraft into the 2030 procurement blueprint, more like a strategic intimidation. After all, China's own J-20 has not yet completely replaced the 3 generations of aircraft, 6 generations of aircraft J-36. Even the production schedule is not clear. This pie-in-the-face type of declaration of arms purchases, but exposes Pakistan's response to the India's military modernization anxiety and powerlessness. Hidden behind the warplane deal is the deep reconfiguration of the industrial chain between China and Pakistan. The Pakistani side insisted on adding technology transfer clauses to the J-35A contract, and plans to assemble radar warning receivers, electronic countermeasure equipment and other subsystems in the local area. If this market for technology strategy can be realized, it will make Pakistan's aviation industry leap from the assembly of screwdrivers to the modularization of the production stage. But the reality of the dilemma is that the Pakistani domestic even basic aviation composite materials cannot be produced independently. The so-called technology transfer is likely to be reduced to symbolic cooperation, just as its independent development of the Dragon Kingfisher. The core of the avionics and the engine still need to rely entirely on the supply of the Chinese side. Although this kind of dependent development can improve the level of equipment in the short term, but it is difficult to cultivate a truly independent defense industry system. While international observers focus on the movement of warplanes, the military value of the China-Pakistan economic corridor is quietly emerging. Cost 200 billion yuan of transportation networks and energy projects, not only for the deployment of J-35, provides a strategic depth. It's supporting air defense radar station, logistics supply center more in the Gwadar port to the Karakoram highway, along the three-dimensional construction of the chain of defense. This, infrastructure plus arms sales, composite model, so that China in the northern coast of the Indian Ocean to obtain unprecedented strategic pivot, and Pakistan through the corridor dividend, in exchange for military modernization opportunities. This kind of cooperation can be sustained for their own needs. Depending on Islamabad can curb domestic separatist attacks on the Chinese project, as well as the New Delhi will tolerate a militarized transformation of the strategic corridor. Standing at a turning point in history, Pakistan's military procurement choices reflect the survival wisdom of small and medium-sized countries in the great power game. The practice of exchanging mineral resources for fifth-generation aircraft is not only a breakthrough in the traditional military trade model, but also implies the risk of being tied up in debt. The tactical advantage brought by the introduction of the J-35A may be offset by India's more aggressive investment in armaments, and the vulnerability of placing national security in a single foreign aid has been shown to the fullest extent in the Ukraine crisis. Perhaps the real way out of the situation does not lie in the pursuit of the quantitative race of sophisticated equipment, but in the construction of asymmetric warfare, in line with national conditions, like the Houthis in Yemen, who used drones to hit the Saudi coalition forces. Pakistan is more in need of the development of ballistic missiles, swarms of drones and other deterrent means of cost controllable, in order to avoid the quagmire of arms race, and at the same time, open up their own security and safety while avoiding the quagmire of an arms race, and carving out a security path of its own. It is worth noting that the global layout of China's military industry is reshaping the regional security landscape. 2023 China's military market share has been the second largest in the world for 4 consecutive years, and its drone exports account for half of the international market, a production capacity advantage that provides Pakistan with diversified options. If the J-35A and the Yalong and Rainbow series of drones can form a combat system, the Pakistan Air Force may be able to build up a new air combat model of stealth fighters, surprise defense, plus drone swarm consumption. This combination is not only far more cost-effective than the introduction of 5th-generation aircraft, can force India to dispersal of air defense resources to create a window for strategic counterattack. However, this idea requires a high degree of systematic combat capability support, and Pakistan's command and control system is still stuck in the mechanized war thinking. To achieve information transformation also need to provide a complete set of Chinese combat system output. The ultimate test of this game of military procurement may lie in the control of geopolitical risk. Although the United States temporarily acquiesced in China-Pakistan military cooperation, but if J-35A deployment touches the balance of maritime power in the Indian Ocean, does not rule out the possibility of Washington, through the technical blockade or financial sanctions pressure, and Russia to retain the Indian arms market, may also be in the key subsystems supply to China to set limits. In this context, the resilience of China-Pakistan cooperation will be subjected to multiple tests, just as the ebb and flow of Guadeloupe Harbor, the roar of the warplanes, both the opportunities of regional power restructuring, but also hidden the shocking waves of the great powers.